The day my daughter told me to stop coming over, she didn't know I was about to leave forever. I'm 79 years old, and 3 weeks ago, my daughter told me something that changed the way I see my entire life. She didn't scream. She didn't insult me. She just said it quietly, like someone mentioning the weather. "Dad, maybe you shouldn't come over so often anymore." That was it. A simple sentence. But sometimes a single sentence can weigh more than a lifetime of memories. What she didn't know was that I had already made a decision long before that moment. A decision that would quietly change everything. My name is Harold Whitman. For 48 years, I ran a small repair shop in Cleveland, Ohio. Nothing fancy, just a narrow garage with oil-stained floors and the smell of metal and rubber that never really left my clothes. I fixed lawn mowers, bicycles, broken tools, anything people brought through that old rolling door. It wasn't glamorous work, but it paid the bills. It put food on the table, and it helped raise my only child, my daughter, Emily. Emily was my whole world after her mother died. My wife, Margaret, passed away when Emily was only 12. Cancer, fast and cruel. One day, Margaret was laughing in the kitchen, and 6 months later, I was standing beside a hospital bed, holding a hand that was already getting cold. After that, it was just me and Emily. I learned how to braid hair from YouTube videos. I burned more pancakes than I cared to admit, and I worked every extra hour I could so she could go to college someday. I missed birthdays with friends. I skipped vacations. I sold my fishing boat. But Emily never knew any of that, because that's what parents do. They make sacrifices quietly. Emily grew up to be brilliant. Scholarships, a business degree, a big job in Chicago. The kind of life her mother used to dream about for her. When she got married and bought a beautiful house in the suburbs, I felt proud in a way that's hard to describe. Like every long shift, every scraped knuckle, every sleepless night had been worth it. A few years ago, I retired. Running the repair shop had taken its toll on my back and hands. The doctor told me it was time to slow down. So I sold the shop and moved into a small apartment about 20 minutes away from Emily and her family. At first, everything felt warm and welcoming. My grandkids would run to the door yelling, "Grandpa." Emily would hug me and ask if I wanted coffee. I helped fix broken toys. I taught my grandson how to use a screwdriver. I told them stories about their grandmother, how she used to sing loudly while cooking even though she couldn't carry a tune. For a while, it felt like I still had a place in the world. But time changes things. Slowly, almost invisibly, Emily started working longer hours. Her husband, Mark, was always stressed about work. The kids had sports practice, music lessons, endless schedules. And somehow, I started feeling like I didn't quite fit into the rhythm of their lives anymore. Conversations would stop when I walked into the room. Plans would suddenly change when I mentioned visiting. Small things, tiny things, but old people notice those details. We have a lot of quiet time to think. Then came that afternoon. The sentence, "Dad, maybe you shouldn't come over so often anymore." She said it gently, carefully, like someone trying not to hurt a fragile object. "We're just really busy right now." Busy, that word again. It's funny how often people hide behind it. I didn't argue. I didn't remind her of the years I spent working double shifts so she could go to college. I didn't mention the nights I stayed awake worrying about paying the mortgage. I simply nodded. "Of course," I said, because what Emily didn't know was that 2 months earlier, I had already begun preparing for a different future. You see, retirement gives you a lot of time to think about life, about legacy, about what really matters when the years start running out. So one quiet morning, I walked into a lawyer's office downtown. I wasn't angry. I wasn't trying to punish anyone. I was simply being realistic. Over the years, I had saved more money than people realized. The sale of the repair shop. The house Margaret and I once owned. Careful investing. Nothing extravagant, but enough. Enough to make choices. Real choices. So I created something new. A foundation in Margaret's name. The Margaret Whitman Workshop Fund. It will provide free tool training and repair classes for young people who can't afford trade schools. Kids who want to learn how to build things with their hands. Just like I did. Just like I once dreamed of teaching my own grandchildren. A portion of my savings is also set aside for my grandkids' education. They'll receive it directly when they turn 18. No me limit. No conditions. Just a quiet gift from a grandfather who believes in their future. Emily will still receive something someday. Of course she will. She's my daughter. But the assumption that everything would automatically become hers, that assumption quietly disappeared. 3 weeks after that conversation, I stopped visiting as often. Not out of bitterness, out of respect. Respect for their space. And for myself. Instead, I began doing things I hadn't done in years. I joined a woodworking group at the community center. I started teaching kids how to repair old furniture. I met people my age who still had stories to tell. And for the first time since Margaret died, the silence in my apartment didn't feel so heavy. Last Sunday, something unexpected happened. Emily showed up at my door. Alone. She looked tired. Older somehow. She stood there holding a small box of cookies like a nervous guest. Eat up. We sat at my kitchen table for a long time without speaking. Finally, she said something I never expected to hear. I think I've been selfish. Her voice cracked a little when she said it. I got so busy with life. I forgot that you might feel lonely too. She stared down at her hands. I'm sorry I said you shouldn't come over. The room stayed quiet for a moment. Then I smiled. Not a big dramatic smile, just a small one. The kind that comes from understanding. Because growing old teaches you something important. Children don't always realize the weight of their words. They're caught in the storms of their own lives. Careers, bills, stress, responsibilities. Sometimes gratitude simply gets buried under pressure. Before she left, Emily asked softly, "Are we okay?" I thought about that question carefully. About the past, about the future, about the space that had grown between us. Then I answered honestly, "We're okay, Emily." I paused, but love doesn't replace respect. Both have to live in the same house. She nodded slowly. This time she understood. I don't resent my daughter. I never will. She is still the little girl who once fell asleep on my shoulder while I fixed bicycles late at night. But life has taught me something in these later years. Something I wish more parents understood. You can love your children with all your heart, without giving up your dignity. Sometimes the most powerful thing a parent can do isn't holding on. It's stepping back, quietly, gracefully, and letting absence teach the lesson that presence once tried to give.